Christmas season is upon us, and our patrons voted for arguably the most famous festive classic there is. I can't imagine It's a Wonderful Life needs an introduction, but if you're super young or just a super Grinch, then go watch the movie and join us for the tale of George Bailey. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
Hee-haw. Hee-haw.
This is a movie podcast, allegedly, and we are starting a month of Christmas movies, each one of which was voted for by our patrons, and the first vote was three, well, I'll just say old movies. It was all stuff from the 30s and 40s, and the winner was It's a Wonderful Life, which was definitely the most famous of the three, although Miracle on 34th Street's not too far behind it in terms of, cred and pop culture kind of awareness. Although this is definitely the one that's the biggest of this era, because it's definitely the one that people associate with being on every year. And, you know, if you watch Home Alone, they're watching It's a Wonderful Life in French at one point when they're in Paris. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's got a lineage through other Christmas movies even. So yes. Now, as bizarre as this is to say for It's a Wonderful Life, we will start spoiler free. We will, you know, we'll keep it close to the chest until we warn you and go into spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support all the content over at Patreon or via YouTube membership and get bonus stuff. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So I feel like It's a Wonderful Life's one of those things where it's just become a term we use for a certain type of plot, right?
Yeah.
This idea...
When I comes down to our thoughts and all that, I was like, how do I talk about the It's a Wonderful Life plot without actually saying what the It's a Wonderful Life plot is?
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing where other, TV shows will often have an episode. Maybe not like cop dramas, but like anything that has like a slight supernatural element or something where they can tap into, or even maybe like a dream episode, maybe the most obvious way they normally do it, is they'll do the It's a Wonderful Life version of whatever their story is. And the weird thing about going back to It's a Wonderful Life now, especially if you've seen things that have taken from it, that have done their take on the story, is actually how long it is into the movie before you get to that part of it, because you go through almost 90 minutes of this movie with the backstory before you get to the actual It's a Wonderful Life part of the movie. And I only mean that in the sense of what you think of when you think of the plot of It's a Wonderful Life, you think of that last half hour or so.
Yeah, there's a framing device around it of like angels, pretty much. It's done via stars or galaxies or whatever, but it's angels. And that is kind of the only thing that is reminding you that we are eventually going to be getting to the It's a Wonderful Life plot, because everything up until then is just kind of the backstory. It's the let's just go through this guy's life, and then eventually we'll get to the thing that is most remembered in this movie.
Yeah, and to be fair, that first, 3/4 of the film does set up a lot of stuff, so that the when we get to that part of it, does a lot, things mean something because we know what the context is for a lot of the changes. But yeah, it's
I think
funny.
That's why it happens so much on television shows, is because it'll, they have seasons upon seasons theoretically of build up that they can work off of. So working in an episode like this, they're like, well, we don't need to do the 90 minutes of build up. We can just have it happen.
Yeah, we can just go straight into it because we know these characters already. We know what makes them tick and then who they are, and we can just go hit the ground running. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, James Stewart in the lead role here. He was 38 when this movie came out. I checked. I was just obviously I don't fault them for this because obviously they're going through different parts of his life. But I was curious when he was playing a 23-year-old. I'm like, what age is he actually here? So yeah,
I was really surprised they made him play a 13-year-old. That was way out of left field.
No, they've got a different actor for the 13-year-old. But no, it's obviously James Stewart or Jimmy Stewart is a big actor at the time. Admittedly, my mind probably goes to his Hitchcock movies first, Rear Window, Vertigo, that stuff, before I think of It's a Wonderful Life. But maybe that's just because I literally saw them first. That might be the only reason why.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that my mind immediately goes to this one first, then I'd say Vertigo, but then it goes back to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one too. Which I guess leads to the question: had you seen this before in its entirety, or is this one that you'd only seen like bits and pieces of growing up?
Yeah, no, I went on a kick back when I first decided I want to try to get a little bit into film snobbery. And I sat down and watched
Snobbery?
this whole thing. Yes, film snobbery. And this has nothing to do with you. This was back like, I don't know, 16, 17, where I was just like, I'm hanging out with people who know a lot about movies, and I don't know a lot about movies. So I think I bumped out
Still
like
don't.
this, Citizen Kane, like a bunch of those all in just like 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, I mean, when did I first see this? I didn't see this as a kid. I saw this maybe for the first time, maybe around the age of like 20, 21, something like that.
You didn't catch this one in theaters?
I'm like, I'm about 5 years older than you. What are you talking about?
Ancient.
No, it's funny though, because obviously when it's going through its like history of the character, that history starts in 1919 and goes through World War II, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like just a year or two after World War II ended. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that blew my mind, because he even said his age. It's just like, here he is at 12 years old in 1919. I'm like, he was born like as flight was first happening. That's ridiculous.
There's a sequence in a street near the end of the movie where there's a bunch of like just like the sort of the store signs and things like that. They've got lots of light bulbs, like not neon, but like all the little light bulbs going around. I don't know what you call that.
Ones.
There you go. Yeah. And I was sort of thinking, wait, was that a thing by 1946? I was actually having that thought in my brain of like, it must be because they put it in their movie and they made it at the time. So, but yes. Anyway,
I think I remember seeing a picture like somewhat recently of Times Square in the 1940s, and obviously it's not like as gaudy as it is now, but it was still littered with that sort of stuff, with those big billboards and all the lights and such.
Yeah, no, it's just funny because, I mean, obviously it wasn't. I know electricity is like 50 years old at least by this point, but part of me still thinking, this is the early days of electricity. And it's not really, but relatively
it depends
speaking.
on what sort of time scale you're thinking of there. Like if you're thinking about like in the general sense of from electricity being invented and like being wired into houses to now, yes, it was the early days, but it's still like a 20-year window.
Yeah, people, like even the poor families in this movie seem to have electricity in their houses. So clearly, I'm just my concept of time like is skewed once you go past a certain decade, where I'm just kind of like, I know what's going on here. But no, so yes, George Bailey's the main character. That's who Jimmy Stewart plays. He is this adventure-seeking young man who wants to get out of his town to go and experience the world. He's got big ideas, big ambitions, but he keeps putting them on hold because people in his town need him in one way or another, whether it be family members, the local townsfolk, maybe he falls in love, like all these things kind of going on. And basically the movie builds up to what is kind of the I don't know if I'll say the worst day of his life, but certainly the day in his life that, things are almost pushed to an extreme, and that's why a guardian angel is sent in to try and help him. So there you go.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I just to get off on George Bailey there, I do really think that he is it takes 90 minutes to define this character. It goes through every aspect of his life growing up, and you get such a good feel for all of his wants, all of his desires, and just the constant shutting down of how he's always right on the verge of getting what he wants, and then something happens, and it just, by the time it hits even like the third time that happens, you feel so deeply for him. You're like, no, come on, just go do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it leads into the first natural question is, David, what did you think of It's a Wonderful Life?
I really liked it. I mean, I liked it when I first saw it. I understand why it is a little bit of a Christmas classic. Obviously, there's a bit of like strangeness in the way that it became a Christmas classic, which I don't know if we'll get into, but just to say it has to do with the public domain. I really think that this is one that it's remembered for an aspect that is so minor in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's not really the focal point of the movie, but I don't think that it's like falsely remembered as good, if that makes sense. Like the part that people remember as It's the Wonderful Life plot is, you know, maybe like 20 minutes of the movie, if even. It comes at the end. It's not a huge deal. But I think that the buildup of this character and seeing all the interpersonal stuff, it makes you fall in love with the character and the way he interacts so deeply that by the time we hit that part, that's why it's hitting so hard. That's why it's so memorable, because you get to see how it all gets turned around on him. So I think that despite what the movie's remembered for, I think the strongest parts of it may just be the rest of the movie entirely. Not to say that the last act doesn't have any good moments to it or it isn't working out. Like, it is a great end to a movie, but it is so much more than just that.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's good, obviously. I'll just get that out of the way. You know, it's a solid character drama. It well defines this main character of George Bailey and kind of the world beating him down a little bit. And I think maybe what sticks out to me a little bit more, really paying attention to it, is that I tend to think of characters in movies from this time period, that being the 30s and 40s, as being, I don't want to say one note, because that's not fair to other movies, but like, I think with this character in particular, that they're presenting him with this really good-natured person who's done a lot of good things for other people, and he's going to be hard on his luck by the end and need help. Mm-hmm. I can sort of see how that plot might have played out and how that character might have been portrayed. But I think it's to a credit to this movie that they do show some moments where he does get frustrated, where he does get angry that he didn't get what he wanted, and he does, you know, he kicks something or he does whatever, and he lashes out in a way that feels human and it feels normal, and it makes him just feel a bit more grounded and realistic, despite the fact that, yeah, it's still very much an old school movie and characters still talk in a very old school movie way most of the time. There's just a little dash of realism to how they portrayed this character that just gives him a little bit extra weight that he would have had if he was just kind of like almost a two-dimensional, just good guy the entire time without any flaws. So I think I really appreciate that. The funny thing is that obviously it's really only the last 20-30 minutes that's set around Christmas. The first 90 minutes are not. They're just different times in his life, and part of it's at a high school graduation, not even his high school graduation, his little brother's graduating high school, and they skip ahead to this day, that day, so on and so on. This might be a bold take. I'm going to say something a little controversial.
Oh.
Die Hard's more of a Christmas movie than It's a Wonderful Life.
Ooh. This always comes down to what the definition of a Christmas movie is. And I think that for the purposes of saying that, like, it is set at Christmas and it involves some like Christmassy theming around it, visuals like that, I will agree with you. I do think Die Hard is more of a Christmas. However, in terms of the message it is getting across, the general tone of hopefulness and goodwill towards man, I'm going to go ahead and say It's a Wonderful Life wins that one out.
I am sorry, did Bruce Willis not save a bunch of hostages? Did that not happen?
I don't remember Jimmy Stewart dangling Mr. Potter over the edge of a building. To be fair, the movie might have improved.
Yeah, the movie might have got an extra point from me at the end if he'd done that. Because Mr. Potter has it coming, right? Mr. Potter's a villain. He's an outright villain in this movie.
He is.
He's not just a common thief. He's an exceptional thief. That's another Die Hard reference. No, I'm not here to sit and crack jokes all day about comparing it to Die Hard. It was just a thought I had in my head, because everyone always loves to debate. For some reason, this naysayer side of that argument just cropped up in the last decade, and I'm watching this and I'm going, yeah, obviously everyone agrees this is a Christmas movie. Everyone thinks of it as a Christmas movie, but you spend 90 minutes with nary a mention of Christmas.
I will say you're over-exaggerating it slightly. Yes, we do spend some time there, but I'm clicking through now, and the actual Christmas portion of it begins at the hour 20 mark.
Oh, sorry. 40 minutes. Sorry. 40 minutes.
Yeah, you do spend a decent time there at Christmas time.
Okay. Yeah, well, so yeah, I think it's like 90 minutes when the It's a Wonderful Life part starts. So I was forgetting about the 10 minutes on that day leading up to it. Forgive me. I don't want to misrepresent anything. heaven forbid.
Yeah, no, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, because that's the other part of the It's a Wonderful Life plot, is it's always done in like the winter time. It's always done as sort of theming of that time. So they always think of it as Christmas is kind of implicit to it.
Yeah, which is not to say that the movie itself doesn't think it's a Christmas movie. It absolutely does, because the opening title sequence has like a Christmas tree at the side. Like, so they know, like they clearly were thinking of it that way when they made it, and that's all fair enough. It's funny to me though, just how long it takes before you get into what feels like the Christmas portion of it. But I mean, obviously it is the most important section. It's the section that everyone remembers, and it's the section that has the, as we keep referring to it, the It's a Wonderful Life plot. Just to simply to mean the mechanic, which, I think the mechanic, when we get there, which obviously is kind of a high concept thing, right? This idea of this angel showing him, I'll just say it, showing him an alternate reality, effectively.
Yeah.
I think that does work. I think it's really good here. I think there's a reason why it's stuck and why other people copy it and try and do things with it. Sometimes to good effect, sometimes to poor effect. Just kind of depends on the execution and who's doing it, but
yeah, I mean, it's not inherently unique to itself. Even if you go back to something like A Christmas Carol, you get a little bit of that. It's not in the same vein, but the idea of showing like an alternate future and whatever else like that, like and that was even said at Christmas. So it's not unique to this, but it definitely is the one that made it its own, made it something that we all relate with this specific movie.
It's different enough. It's not exactly a Christmas Carol. I get why you're comparing them, because it's very much say that I'm going to show you things to like change your outlook on life, but it's not quite an alter. I mean, the future arguably is altered because it's a possible future in that story typically, but the present and the past tends to just be, no, this is what's happening that you're not seeing, as opposed to this is what's happening as a result of you not being here,
doing or not doing something. Yeah.
So whereas you could almost argue, I mean, I wouldn't call it a time travel movie, but the way that some of the things have ripple effects, it's almost like watching a time travel movie where like like we're in Back to the Future and alternate 1985. You're like, well, because we weren't here for this, then this happened, and then this happened, and so on and so on.
The moment we were strolling down that main street, that flashed in my mind of the Biff Tannen tower in the background. I'm like, okay, I see what we're doing here.
Yeah. So anyway, the movie's obviously, it's very good. It's a good character piece. It's heartwarming by the time you get to the end. It's got a villain that it's nice and easy to hate. It's a very pleasant watch. The only thing I really can say against it, honestly, and maybe this is just because I didn't see it as a kid, is I didn't grow up with it. So I kind of don't have that heartwarming Christmassy feel towards it in the same way that I have to, like people are going to say, oh, you're saying you have more feelings for Home Alone than you do It's a Wonderful Life. But I grew up watching Home Alone as a kid. There's a difference.
No, the nostalgia factor definitely plays into it for sure. I would say I didn't grow up with it either. Like I said, the first time I sat down and watched it was like 15, 16. But I do still have the heartwarming feeling. I just don't directly associate it with Christmas. Like, I view it as a very inspirational film. It does a great job at getting its message across, but to say it's a Christmas film for me is like, all right, yeah, I mean, I that's when it's on the most. Sure, we can call it that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always when I choose to watch it, to be fair. I would never throw it on in July, but it's, it definitely feels fitting for the season and all that, as much as I'm cracking jokes and whatnot. It definitely fits in with Christmas. It's interesting to me just how not as much of a focus as you think it probably is going to be going into, especially if you've heard, oh, it's one of the greatest Christmas movie of all time, or it's the most prolific Christmas movie of all time. It's just kind of interesting. So, so I think we should just get a spoiler warning quickly here and get into it, because I feel like most people probably know It's a Wonderful Life to some extent.
The only thing I want to say before we get into it, because I said I would mention it, is the public domain aspect of it.
Sure.
So for anyone who doesn't know the history of this, it didn't actually really do that well. It wasn't exactly like a great, well-renowned film when it came out. Because of that, the copyright ended up lapsing, theoretically, in 1974. And because of that, it was able to be aired on all the different TV stations that didn't want to shell out money or whatever to show movies. And that's when it started gaining like more mass appeal again. People saying like, oh, hey, this is a really good movie, and really, becoming a new classic more or less. So I say theoretically because I remember there being a headline a couple years back of like something about it wasn't actually copyright free and therefore like they had to remove it from the rotation of public domain for a while, but I could just be misremembering that entirely.
Yeah, so I just googled it because I was curious, because it doesn't feel like it's still public domain now. I feel like you can't just throw it up. And yeah, apparently there was a ruling in the 90s that let Republic Pictures, who originally made it, although it's usually Paramount who puts out the releases and all that these days. Apparently the short story is still under copyright, and some of the music is still copyrighted. So there's still elements of it, so any distribution via like, Blu-ray, digital platforms, they're all, you can't just take that and start broadcasting it and be like, oh, I'm in the clear. So it's definitely a little bit more complicated than just it's completely in public domain. Also, well, copyright does expire. That is that's still a true thing.
Theoretically. It
takes a long time. So I feel like the rules must have changed sometime after this went public domain, because stuff now takes 90 years, although it seems like nothing's going to challenge that, because the big reason why everyone thought it would change again is because they thought Disney's going to step in when Mickey Mouse is about to go public domain, but that didn't happen because they knew everyone was going to like fight it, because everyone's like, 90 years is more than enough time, you son of a bitches. Like, that's it, copyright's there, because you don't have to copyright something. As soon as you make something, it is automatically your copywritten work.
That's the change.
Yeah,
that's the change, is that you used to have to register for copyright. It was only actually like on a kind of a coasting copyright basis for a while, but then you had to register it to keep it copywritten, and that's where this one fell into public domain because they didn't renew it properly.
Yeah, so nowadays though, if you just make something, you've got copyright. Like, you don't have to apply for it now. Trademark's the one that you have to actually go for and like keep up to date and pay for every once in a while, and challenge if anyone tries to use it and so on.
And that's why Mickey is still even when he enters public domain however long ago, and all the things that are coming out from Disney, trademark is what's going to get you.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be very careful. Like, only that original version is public domain for now. It's like when Superman goes public domain, it's like, okay, Superman's public domain, but the version of the logo you recognize, the all the like kryptonite, Perry White, some of the villains, like there's a lot of stuff, some of his powers even didn't come till later, so they're not public domain yet. So it's just, you have to be very careful about what you're using if you're doing the copyright free poaching.
You can't fly, no heat vision yet, none of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll be in our 50s or 60s by the time all that stuff's public domain, so look forward to that. About?
I mean, oh wait, no, sorry, I just assumed you were in your 50s or 60s already.
Very funny, very funny. I am a spry mid-30s man.
Yes.
So far. Not for much longer, probably, but still. Yep. Yeah. Actually, it was kind of a weird feeling realizing that I'm only a year or two younger than Jimmy Stewart is in this movie. I'm like, whoa, times are weird. I feel weird. I'm getting older.
Anytime there's an older movie, even if it's like 80s at this point, and they show a character and they say like, oh, this character's around, and then whatever age I am at the time, I'm like, no, that can't be right. You're significantly older than me.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Stewart's just always felt like an older guy, so I think that's part of it. But generally speaking, people did look a bit older, a bit quicker back in the day for a variety of health and lifestyle reasons.
That's kind of the other thing of this, is that this is Jimmy Stewart's first movie he made after being in World War II, and he was out like as an actual soldier. He was on the front lines and all that, so he did a lot to get a lot older a lot quicker then, so makes sense.
That's fair. So spoilers for It's a Wonderful Life. You have been warned, everyone. We'll get into it. So as you kind of alluded to a little bit, the movie starts with like angels having a chat, and because we're in the early days of special effects and whatnot, we have basically just a static star field and some blinking lights to make it look like the stars are talking to each other. It's kind of adorable, honestly.
It is, but they do like a zoom in to show like we're in space, and there's a planet that goes by, and I swear to God, it's the MST3K logo. Like, I swear to God, it looks exactly the same.
In the not too distant future, next Sunday 80. I won't do the whole thing. It's all right.
Thank you. Copyrighted.
Yeah. I don't sing well enough for anyone to pick up on it. Don't worry. So basically, yeah, this George Bailey fella, he's having a bit of a rough day. He needs help. Who's up next? Whose turn is it to go down and help one of these sad mortals? Oh, it's this Clarence character who's not even got his wings yet because he's a loser.
What a creep.
But he's all excited. He asks if he can get his wings, and he's like, if you help George Bailey, you'll get your wings. I mean, we were adding a bit of spice into this. Honestly, it's very friendly and civil, the entire conversation. There's not a hint of like anything.
I think one of the stars, before Clarence gets in, they say that he is the IQ of a duck or something like that. Like, it comes out of nowhere and it feels so mean, but like, whatever. They just say, yep, you got it, get to it.
They're supposed to be angels. They're supposed to be nice. They're not.
I guess not. That's just a dickish angel.
Yeah, maybe I guess so. So yeah, we basically get like, hey, you need some background story though. So the first like 2/3 of the movie is effectively them showing the history of George Bailey. At one point, I mean, don't do too much of this. It only happens once, I think, where they pause it, and he's like, hey, why did you stop it? And I was like, oh, like, this feels like kind of weird that they're doing this weird meta thing where they're pausing the movie and like talking over it. I don't know. It's like, it almost feels a little Mystery Science Theater 3000 in some ways.
Yeah, especially because like they pause it in the same, and the conversation they have is just saying like, oh, just remember that face, that's George Bailey. But the way that he's like mid-conversation, you get like a good look at his face, and his hands are like out like this. It just feels like one of those record scratch, like, yeah, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I got here sort of moments. Like, obviously it's not, but it gives that vibe.
Yeah, so, I mean, we see him as a kid, first of all, saving his little brother when he falls in the ice one winter when they're kids. And then we see that, you know, he got injured from that a little bit. He lost his hearing in one of his ears, and we see that he's got like an after-school job. He goes and works in the drugstore. And there's a couple things here. First of all, I'll just say I don't understand the wish and the hot dog thing that he does.
Look, I'm sure it makes perfect sense to people watching it back then, but yeah, it's like this little lever you pull that also has a lighter in it. He makes a wish, and I guess seeing the flame on the lighter means his wish was granted or something.
Yeah? I don't know.
I got nothing.
But obviously there's a major plot thing that happens here. But before we get to the major plot thing, we get the introduction of who will be his future wife, Mary, who's also a kid, obviously, and also the slutty one, Violet.
Okay, look. In the future, yes, you're right. In this scene, she's like 6. So...
No, you're right. But it's still apt, though, because Mary's in here clearly making googly eyes at George, and then Violet comes walking in with a swagger and a strut, and gets up and says, I want some licorice or something, George. And he's like, and then our tone changes. She's like, hi, George. Hello, Mary. And I'm like, we already have like a love triangle, and they're barely, 8 years old.
I love when George walks away. Violet's like, no, I really like that George boy. And Mary goes, you like all the boys. And she's like, yeah, and?
See? Slutty one.
Look, in the future, yes, I just feel weird about saying that about this girl specifically.
I'm saying that about her character as a whole. Right. Try not to focus it too much on this, but
no,
I mean,
you're right.
To be fair, this scene sets it up. This scene sets up her attitude in her later life.
You're right. Absolutely.
Right. The big plot thing here, though, is that the guy who runs this place is very distraught, and George sees this letter telling him that his son's been killed during military service of some kind.
He got basically the Spanish flu during World War One.
Yeah, it's 1919, so yeah, it's probably just some late news for World War One. And he tries to, and George, showing that he's this tremendous person, even at this age, he tries to ask him if he needs anything, he wants to help, he wants to be nice to him. But he notices that the old man, I say old man because he already felt kind of old here, but he's still alive in the end of the movie, so he's clearly at least, maybe only in his 40s or something here, but regardless.
I mean, it would be 20 years later. He's 13 here, 38, 25 years. It's 25. Feasible.
Yeah, it's not unrealistic. It's just he already felt like he's... Again, it's the same thing of having Jimmy Stewart play the early 20s version of himself. You just kind of have to accept a little bit of fudging with the age faces.
All you gotta do is put a little bit of gray right here on the temples, and all of a sudden, you're 40s. Easy.
Yeah. It's black and white though, so it's not as noticeable.
I mean, fair. Yeah. It's there though. You can see the light difference.
So the old man makes a mistake though. He has got pills ready for an order, a delivery that he wants George to make, but George notices that he might have taken some of the wrong stuff. He effectively, he's put poison in the pills, right? And the visual language kind of shows you that, but the bottle literally just says poison on it, which feels like a really stupid mistake on his part. So George wants to go speak to his dad, who works at the loans and bonds sort of office, but his dad's busy dealing with Mr. Potter, who's our villain. This is the first time we really get introduced to him in the movie, I believe. And he's just like, I don't care about these poor people. They owe you money. You better take their money so you can pay me. Yeah, that kind of vibe.
Look, kudos to the movie. They made a villain that will always, to all cultures, be evil.
Yes.
Good on them.
Yes. It's. Anyway, I will say, I will admit that there is definitely some parts of this movie where I don't know if I completely understand the intricacies of all the financial stuff that they're bringing up.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say I understand, all the intricacies, but I understood enough to understand what was going on in the movie.
Oh, sure, yeah, no, I agree with that. But I just, because later on it's like, the bank's closed, but they come here for the money, and I'm like, so they use this place as like an alternate kind of to their bank. I don't know. I don't really know how this separate loans building works necessarily all that well.
Once we get into it, I'll specifically say what I think it is.
Knock yourself out. But anyway, his dad's too busy though, so he doesn't get the advice that he wants to. He wants to tell his dad what he saw and ask for advice. Instead, though, he just kind of goes back. The old man yells because he just got off the phone. The delivery's not been made. He's like, "Where have you been? What's going on?" And he gets kind of rough. He starts, shoving him a little bit, and he's shaking him. And George eventually is able to blurt out that, "No, I think you made a mistake. You put some of this stuff in there, and you would have killed this man potentially if he'd taken these pills." And the old man sort of breaks open a pill and kind of does a little taste test, which again, it's poison. Maybe
and
not.
Immediately drops dead. It's very dark.
Instead, though, he actually kind of drops to his knees, and George thinks he's going to get shoved again or something. He gets kind of scared, and he's like, "No, you just did a good thing, boy. You just saved me. I almost did something unforgivable. It would have ruined me, and I would never be able to do this job ever again if I'd done this." And he's very thankful, and it's like, oh, even at 13, young George Bailey is making a difference in people's lives. He's done something just inherently good. I mean, he kind of did with the brother as well, of course, but that's more of an action-y kind of thing where, oh, my brother's literally drowning, I'm just going to jump in and save him. That's more of a quick necessity. This felt like he had to stand up to an adult to make sure the right thing happened, and then the adult was very thankful for it once they realized their mistake.
I think both things in concert together gives you the immediate idea that he will always do the right thing regardless of what might happen to him, whether that be putting his life in danger, whether that be getting fired from his job, whether that be shoved around and have his ears boxed by this old man. He is always willing to do the right thing no matter what happens, which obviously is both a moral virtue and also his biggest flaw as a character.
Yeah. So after that, we skip ahead. We see that he is getting ready to leave. He wants to go off and travel for a bit and then go to college. And he's got a deal with his brother that he'll go off and go to college for 4 years, and then they'll switch. He'll come back and work and let his brother go to college for 4 years because his parents couldn't afford to just send them themselves. So he's worked for a bit to save up for it, and then he's going to help his brother out. So they're kind of taking turns, which kind of works out because his brother's graduating high school. He's now 23, George, so he's getting ready to go. So a lot of this is set around the graduation of the brother. So we go to his prom and do some scenes around there. But we see that his good deeds, his kindness has rewarded him. The old man who runs the drugstore has bought him a gift. He's bought him a nice big suitcase with his name on it because he's like, hey, you want to go travel? He bought him a suitcase. It's all very sweet and nice and thoughtful, and shows that people do notice the good things that he does for them. He it doesn't go completely unappreciated. It's not like Because that'd be another method the movie could have taken that would be a little bit different, is that he keeps doing good things and he just keeps getting shit on for it. But that's not entirely what happens either.
No, it threads a very fine line where he's always rewarded for the things that he does, but he's not rewarded with what he initially wants.
Yes.
He always stays, his wants is always get out of this town, go explore the world, do something bigger. He wants nothing less than to be tied down to his dad's bank and loan and be stuck in this town for the rest of his life. But as every time he does something, it's kind of keeping him in place, it's keeping him tied down, but it is still something good that happens in his life, just not the way he initially wanted it to be.
Yeah, and his dad, before he goes off to his brother's graduation, his dad's like, hey, have you ever thought about, you want to go off and be an architect or something? Like, have you ever thought about, maybe staying here and taking over my job? And he obviously looks mortified the second he says it, and the dad kind of like, you're right, you should get out of here. You should go get a good education and just go wherever you want and get out of this stupid town. Of course, the dad looks a little bit ill in this scene, which is obviously a little bit of a forewarning of what's to come.
Yeah, I all I could think in that scene was like, I'm just waiting for him to be like, pull out a pill bottle. It's like trembling in his hand, and I'm like, boy, he's not going to make it to the end of this scene.
So he goes off to the prom and he reunites with Mary, who I think it's implied that he sees her around, but like, she's a few years younger than him. She's just graduating. She's the same age as his brother. But now she's, as we find out when they're talking afterwards, she's 18, he's 23. Obviously, he's quite taken with her. Although Violet still tries to make her moves, though. Violet tries to hit on him at the dance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I will say, just in the sequence that happens after the dance, when they're walking together, she says like, oh, yeah, I'm 18 now. And he's just like, oh, 18. And like, there's a little inflection in his voice. And she asks the question, is that too old or too young? And I'm like, how in the hell is that too old, Mary? Don't. That's weird.
It was a very different time, right? I don't know if people were still taking brides that were 14, but like, it's a very different time. That's all.
Yeah, sure, whatever. But still, I'm glad he's like, no, it's a fine age. I like that age. 18.
You could maybe, again, I don't know the intention of it at the time. Maybe you could read that as her, like, not joking per se, but prodding that, oh, you're a creep who likes a younger girl kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
You could
fit in her character. She's pretty much on the par and able to keep up with Jimmy's wit here.
Yeah. They're cracking jokes a lot. Obviously, there's the one guy who's jealous that George started dancing with her, so he hits the pull button so that the gymnasium floor starts to separate, and Jimmy and Mary fall in, but he doesn't get mad. He just keeps dancing in the water, and then other people just start jumping in because, hey, he brings life with him. Everything gets cheered up because George is the life of the party. He makes everyone feel better. So yeah, they have this is obviously the scene afterwards is the whole I'll give you the moon. I'll put the lasso around the moon and give it to you. Also sets up their future house, which is this rundown old house that's fallen apart that he's throwing rocks at for good luck.
I love how the scene breaks down where he's, they're kind of flirting here. It does feel like George is a little oblivious to some of her advances, but when they reach this house, he's like, oh, hey, you could throw a stone at the window, and if you break some glass, then you get a wish. And she's like, oh, but don't do that. I love that house. I want to live there someday. And like, he registers it. He takes it in and he says like, no, it's real fun. Check it out. And he does it anyway. And I'm like, all right, George, sure, go for it.
Yeah. And then she does it as well. And to be fair, if you're going to live here, you're going to have to put all new windows in anyway, so you might as well just smash them.
Yeah.
But no, it does show though the difference in the characters. Even though there's an attraction here, is that all he's thinking about is leaving, whereas she actually thinks about her future being here. Even though she does go away to college and come back, as we find out later, she does return to the town, and he like can't understand, why did you come back here? Like, she's, I've got family here. I've got things I care about here. Blah blah blah.
I got a guy here who's not picking up on anything I'm laying down.
Yeah, actually, it takes a heckler. It takes like a guy who's just sitting in his porch to be like, just shut up and kiss her already. You're shooting her ear off.
I think George says something along the lines of like, oh, I'm sorry, am I talking too much? And the guy's like, yes, Jesus.
Unfortunately, though, just as things are getting properly steamy, if you will. The car pulls up.
She's wearing a little robe after all of her clothes got wet, and it comes off in a little hijinks fashion. So she's hiding in a bush, and George is just pacing around her like, opportunities like this don't come up every day. Let's examine our options here.
Yeah, the car pulls up though, and the brother and I think the uncle, his dad's brother, Uncle Billy, are like, "Hey, your dad had a stroke. We need to go to the house right now." So he rides off, and that's kind of it. And kind of I would argue the first, like, not the first character scene, because obviously we've been talking about nothing but character scenes that have established who he is as a person and his morals, why you should root for him, all the rest of it. But I think his first big scene is the scene in the savings and loans when they're with Potter and there's a bunch of the investors or whoever, like, maybe part owners, whoever, right? Yeah. They're all sitting down, and Mr. Potter's like, "Oh, I've been wanting to get rid of this place forever. I should take over and just dissolve it." And the whole construct of the scene is that George Bailey has stayed away. He was meant to be going off on his trip, and he's basically given his trip up. Like, he's still going to go to college, but he's given up his trip so he can stay here for a couple of weeks to basically just sort out things after his dad's death. Like, sort of see a transition process through, help manage that and get it all sorted. And he's basically like signing some final papers, and the uncle's like, "Hey, George stayed and helped us out and gave up his trip for us, so everyone thanked George." And he's like, so he's literally going to leave the scene. He's getting ready to walk out of the room, and Mr. Potter starts blabbing about, "We're helping the poor too much. This is these filthy beggars. They should get back into the slums that I own. Pay me." That's
such a big part of it, is that the biggest conflict of interest I could possibly imagine, and yet no one's calling him out on it. It's just like, yeah, this savings and loan place is literally made to give homes to people who otherwise wouldn't qualify. Like, it is giving all of these lesser people homes. And I also have a controlling interest in the slums of this town where all these people are moving out of. Boy, I wonder why I want this place shut down. But in fairness, George straight up calls him out on it. And he's like, "No, like, what are you saying here?" But the big part that gets him interested, the big part that pulls him back into the room, is that he basically starts bad-mouthing his dad. And that's Potter bad-mouthing George's dad. And Potter was basically just saying, like, yeah, he was an idiot. He was a bad businessman, and he shouldn't have been giving out loans to all these people. And George is like, yeah, he was a bad businessman. Absolutely. He never saved money for, like, college or anything like that for his sons. But, like, he was a good man, and you keep his name out of your mouth.
Yeah, it's very impassioned. He turns back around. He makes this big speech, takes command of the room, gives a big speech about how, everyone in this town deserves a decent home to live in. You're saying, they shouldn't get a home until they can save $5,000, and keep in mind we're in 1940s $5,000 money. Jesus. Right? Later on we find out that George's weekly salary is $45, so that should put it in perspective how much 5,000 is in this time period. Yep. And it's like how long someone's supposed to wait, like, until they're like barely, like, they're too old to even really enjoy their new house. Like, no, like, they should have a chance, right? Yes, David.
As someone who has, for the past decade, been renting different places and looking at the house market, this movie is eternal. And I hate it, and yet love this speech so much because of it.
Oh, no, it's really good. It's really good. And he can't help. And he goes outside finally, and he's speaking to some of the others out in the sort of reception area, and he's basically getting ready to say his goodbyes and whatnot. I think it's the uncle who comes running out, saying they've all voted against Potter's, like, plan. They don't want him to shut down the savings and loans. And he's like, "Oh, that's great, but they've got a condition. You need to take over your dad's job and run it." And his face just drops, his heart drops, it sinks, and he looks all distraught. And he doesn't even really say too much. The scene ends with him kind of, like, his face is right up in the camera as they're all talking behind him. And one of the characters flat out says, "Oh no, if he doesn't take the job, then they're just going to go with Mr. Potter, and this place won't exist, and all these people who are still paying back money are going to now owe more to Mr. Potter. No one else will be able to use it, blah, blah, blah." And the scene just kind of fades, and, like, I think it's the angel narration comes in and says, "Yeah, Clarence, you guessed it. He doesn't get to go. He has to stay."
Yeah, this is just, they kind of just explain what happens in the middle of the time skip here, which is that he used the college money on his brother instead. His brother went off and did some college stuff. And then when we cut back, it's as his brother's coming back into town, and he's been
It's 4 years later.
4 years later, he's been running this place the whole time.
Yeah, and again, you're like, you know what? He did this for his brother, and his brother was obviously a good 4 or 5 years younger, so it made more sense for George to go to college first. But he swapped it around. He's let his brother go first, so now he's 27, right? So if he goes to college now, he'll be 31 by the time he's done, right? But his brother's coming back on a train. They're excited to see him. They go up to talk to him, and he introduces a woman. He's like, "Hey, I kind of got married. Here's my wife." And there's a moment where George looks a little bit shocked, but it's only for like a couple of seconds, and he's like, "Wait, why am I acting so like cold about this? No, this is great news." Yeah. And he hugs the sister-in-law. He's all happy. He's cheery. For a second he's a little bit worried about what this means, but he lets it go. He's like, "No, this is good news. I'm going to be happy about this for my brother." It's when the sister-in-law though just casually mentions, because the whole idea is that the brother was going to come back and take over the savings and loans, allowing George to go and fulfill his dreams and do what he wants to do. But the sister-in-law mentions, "Oh yeah, my dad took a real liking to him, even offered him a big job, over in Chicago or whatever other city it was."
I think it was Rochester.
Yeah. And he just stops dead in his tracks, his face just completely drops.
In credit to the brother, though, the brother immediately comes up saying, like, "I didn't accept it. I'm not going to accept it. I know our deal. I'm going to take over the place. Don't worry about it."
But of course, George goes over to the sister-in-law when the brother goes back to get the cases, and he's like, "Hey, about this job, is it a good job?" And you can sort of tell that he's like, "I don't want to ruin this opportunity for my brother if it's a good opportunity." And it doesn't sound like it starts off with that much pay, but it's like, oh, there's a lot of room for advancement. There's a lot of room to go up the ladder.
If, at some point in the future, there's another world war, he's going to be rich. Everything will be fine. But what are the odds of that happening?
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, you can see him already starting to process this idea that he's going to give up yet again. Because maybe part of it is that he just already feels like it's starting to get a bit late, and this is almost like, maybe I should just accept that it's not happening now and give my brother this chance, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, this sequence goes on. It's probably the second longest time period section outside of the ending bit, where this section goes on and we see the family is gathered up that night. They're all congratulating the brother and wishing him well and whatnot. And George then kind of, gets a little bit emo. He goes out, he needs to go for a walk, and it's this thing where it feels like he has kind of hit this level where he's not happy with how things have turned out thus far. He's having to make this heavy decision, and he's realizing now, if I don't do this, if I actively make the choice to go against what my brother said he would do for the sake of him having a better life, I'm pretty much throwing it all away. I'm not going to have another shot here. And
he literally throws away. He has leaflets for different places he wants to visit. He's got a leaflet for Africa and a leaflet for South America or whatever, and he just throws them away. And it's like, oh, he's basically made a choice here, but he's not happy about it. He's clearly sad, and he's you say he's moping around. The mum does say to him though, "Hey, Mary came back from college. Maybe you should go speak to her." And he doesn't actually plan on doing that. He just kind of saunters through town, and it's funny because he actually runs into Violet, who is with two men. Again.
Yeah, this scene feels weird to me the way it's paced, but I understand why it's here.
She's like, "Okay, you two, I think I might have a better option, but stay here in case it doesn't work out." And she comes over to George and says, Hey, Georgie boy, or whatever she says. And he does actually kind of say, "Hey, yeah, do you want to go do something? Let's go to make a night of something." And she's like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And she clearly is expecting to be taken, maybe drinking, dancing.
Let's hit up the clubs. Let's go dancing. Let's go see the sights or whatever. And then he comes back and he's like, "Let's run barefoot through a field of grass. Let's climb a mountain. Let's go skinny dip in a lake." And she's like, "What the hell are you talking about? What are you doing?"
He wants to go have his adventures, even if he can't leave the town. He wants to go to the local places he can have his adventures. So she just gets kind of weirded out, and he's like, "Oh, just forget the whole thing."
Now, I like that whole scene. The bit that makes it weird to me is that it's a very close, tight shot as he's saying this stuff. He's like, "Hey, let's go out there. Let's do all this stuff." And then when she responds badly, it does a wider shot. And you see there's 10 people gathered around who all start like essentially doing a pointing and laughing like, this guy's a creep. I'm like, do we really need the public humiliation aspect of it as well?
He just wants to seize the day. Give him a break.
Carpe diem wasn't invented yet. You couldn't do that.
Yeah, except the language that comes from is like definitely older than.
I'm pretty sure it was made for Dead Poet Society.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yes. So he just kind of saunters, and he happens to go past where Mary's like lives. So her mum's house or her parents' house, and she like sort of says, "Hey, is that you, George? Your mum called and said you were coming over." And obviously this is a surprise to him. He's like, "I never said I was coming here. She made some suggestions, but I was just kind of
when he was leaving, he was like, all right, Mom, point me in the direction of Mary's house," and she does, and then he does a 180 and goes the other direction anyway.
So he reluctantly kind of agrees to come in, and he sits down, and it's an awkward conversation for the most part. It's kind of weird where he's questioning why she would ever come back here. There's also a whole segment here where a friend kind of offers him and Mary a job to get started on this plastic factory or something. That he doesn't end up taking, obviously, because he stays with the savings and loans. But it's this idea of all this potential and all the rest of it, and he does get a little unlikable and get frustrated, at her being so happy with everything, and him obviously in his sort of worst elements here. Obviously it ends with them kissing. It obviously ends with like her embracing him, and it ends with she's giving him some level of comfort that he's not had up until now. So there is something there, obviously.
Well, I really do like this scene because of, like you were saying at the beginning, it shows him not in the most positive light. Like, we empathize with him. We know that he's going through a lot right now. But I love it because Mary, as soon as she hears that he's coming by, she pulls out all the stops. She's like, I did a drawing of you lassoing the moon, and I have it framed. And like, I'm going to set that on display. I'm going to play the record of the song that we were singing that night as we were walking through the town together. Like, I am going to remind you of that night because I thought it was perfect. And then he gets in and he looks at the photo, is just like, well, that's a silly drawing. Also, what's this song? Why are we listening to this? And she's just like, all right, this isn't going as planned at all. And she does get upset with him to the point of basically he ends up leaving, and she seems kind of satisfied with that. I mean, upset, but like she's upset as well, just at him. And it isn't until the phone call comes in and he gets roped back in on that it's all just one continuous take as far as I can tell. The camera holds on them as they are both trying to share the single earpiece, and it's got a bloom filter over it as well, so it's got, it's all very romantic looking, and then you just slowly see them realizing, oh wait, this is gonna happen. We're not gonna be able to pull away from this. But in what I think is a brilliant move from the sake of the character's perspective is that he has one last break. Like right before they kiss, right before it all just comes to a thing, he is still at an emotional peak, but he doesn't want to give in. He's like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be stuck here. I don't want to have kids.
That's it. That's the part, is that if he gives in and says, okay, this is going to be a thing, me and you, and I know you want to stay here, I'm tied down with you wherever we're going to be, and you want to be here. So it's this idea of like, this is me settling, and it's almost like he's giving up again a little bit, but he's finding something good in like the giving up. There's a level of compromise here. So it's like, okay, he's had this really bad night. This is arguably the second worst night in the movie that he has, obviously, until the big one later on. And his angel in this case ends up being Mary. This is the light that's like, oh, hey, I can't have all these things, but I do actually like being around you. I do feel romance here. And and so it kind of ends this next chapter of his life is getting with her.
It immediately cuts to their wedding day.
Yes.
Like, it's a hard cut to them coming out, getting rice thrown on them.
And it's like, okay, he's still working at the savings and loans. He's still helping people out. That's all great. But at least he can have a vacation, right? He can still go on his honeymoon with his new wife for a couple of weeks.
Oh, no.
They've got some money saved up, or people gave them a lot of money for wedding presents, whatever the case. They've got a wad of cash, $2,000, which again, if a house costs $5,000, or maybe that's not the cost of the whole house, but you know what I mean. Like, if that's what it costs to get a house, at least to start with, in 1946, then $2,000 just for a vacation seems like a hefty kitty to be spending?
So I'm assuming, because this is before the war hits, we do have a specific period.
Well, that's
for
true.
World
This
War II.
is pre. Yeah, this is like.
I'm going to
1940.
assume 1935, in which case it would be about $45,000.
Yeah, that's a lot to spend on one holiday.
Yeah.
Damn. Sometimes I just like. I'm imagining going back with what I currently have on my bank account to like 100 years ago and just feeling like rich because it's suddenly worth so much more.
Oh yeah, no, that's anytime that I watch anything old or like read a book and they're just like, hey, you can't do that, you can't take from us, that costs you at least 2 cents. And I'm like, 2 cents, this is 2 cents, yeah, okay, have 2 cents, whatever, give me 50 of them, here's $1, I'm rich.
It's almost like, I mean, this is a dumb movie, but there's that joke in a Euro trip where they go to an Eastern European country and they think they're broke, they've got no money because they've only got like $17 on them. But it turns out the currency here is so bad that it's actually, they can spend the night in like the penthouse suite and stuff.
Right.
It's a stupid movie. It's a stupid joke, but it's what makes me think of.
Good soundtrack.
I don't remember it well enough to agree or disagree with that. So anyway, they're on their way. One of the recurring characters, minor characters in the movie, is this cab driver that he always talks to. Because there was a whole sequence early on. The first time we see him as an adult, there's a scene where Violet walks past and like sort of does the sort of slutty walk in front of him, like try to like catch his eye, and like both him, the cab driver, and the police officer, right? They all kind of like just rise up from behind the cab, staring at her. And then also there's an old guy staring at her, like almost gets hit by a car. So they're really setting up the idea that she's I don't know, like a, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's the female equivalent of a womanizer. I'm not quite sure.
No. Well, I guess I was thinking more just like she's like the sultry, like I don't know, temptation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I love that sequence. That's the first time I got like a hearty laugh out of it because I completely forgot this bit. Was the cab driver lets George in and like they're going wherever, and then the policeman, he's just like, "Hey, police guy, you wanna come along with?" And he's like, "No, I gotta check on the wife." And you just feel like he like that temptation of just like, oh, she just walked by and I want to go follow that, but no, I got my wife. And I think the cab driver's just like, better man than me.
Oh dear. So anyway, they're on their way for their thing, but they see a big crowd around the saving and loans building, and for some reason the bank is closed for like 2 weeks or something. Like something's going on. The bank's not accessible, so they're all rushing to the savings and loans, and they're worried. But Uncle Billy, who still works there for him, has already like given all their money to the bank because they had to be deposited, right? So they don't have like a big cash kitty around like that, and all these people are freaking out because they don't have access to their money. They all need it, and it's basically this fire where he like doesn't need to get out the car and go and deal with it. In fact, Mary tries to tell him not to. She almost is basically like aware that he keeps having his dreams snatched away, and she's like, "Hey, don't get out of the car. Just let's go. We're already left. We'll come back and we'll help with whatever way we can when we're done with our honeymoon. But until then, let's leave it." But he can't help it. He has to go see why they're all upset and why they're all unruly. And he finds out, of course, he phones Mr. Potter, and Mr. Potter is basically using this as a way to try and like buy out all the shares of the savings and loans for cheap. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it for 50 cents on the dollar." And George, to his credit, tells him to go F himself, and basically no uncertain terms. Some of the people, though, once they hear about this offer, decide to go, or at least want to decide to go and sell their shares directly to Potter.
Yeah.
And George rushes them to the door, blocks them, and says, "Look, he's not trying to help you. He's trying to, use this situation to his advantage. Let me help you. Let's all just pull together. We can get through this as long as we all work together." It gives a little bit of a rousing speech. And they're like, "That's all fine and well, but we need cash." And he looks over at Mary, who's holding the $2,000 in her hand. And he's like, "Hey, we have some cash." And he starts literally handing out his honeymoon spending money as loans to these people so they can like buy stuff for the next week.
I love this sequence because it does a great job of showing George's character again and shows just how dedicated he is to keeping this place open, keeping his family's dream open. It does a great job of showing how evil Potter is, because it's literally like, yeah, I'm going to you're in a moment of weakness here. You don't have the cash on hand. I'm going to jump on that. And I don't know if it directly says it, because again, some of the financial voodoo that's going on, it seems like he orchestrated this. It seems
that's the vibe I got as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he knew this was going to be happening. He inspired the bank run to happen, and this is what happened there. But the bit that really gets me is there's the one guy who's kind of the most vocal one. He's the one that's speaking up the most. And he's like, I have $243 with you guys. I want it all out now. And it's just like, okay, if that's what you want, write it down. We'll get it to you in 6 weeks. And like within the contracts they signed, that's totally allowed. Like George is playing by the rules here, but it's this idea that he's trying to make good on it, well, like these people. He's trying to make sure that they don't make a bad decision for themselves, even if it's putting him out, where he's like, okay, here's the money. But then when he gets back to it, when he's like, all right, I have this money in hand now, how much do you want? He goes to that first guy, and he specifically says, how much do you need just to make do, just to get by? And he says $243. And the guy doesn't back down. He wants to take all of his money out.
But everyone after that, though, says, you know what? For the next week, $20 will be fine. I can live on $20 for another week. And he's like, 20's fine. And there's one woman who says 17.50 really specifically, and George almost just like leaps across and kisses her because like, oh, you beautiful woman, 17.50 is even better.
I will say, trivia wise, apparently scripted, it was supposed to be $17. That's how they did it in all the rehearsals. And then Frank Capra came up and was just like, say a weird amount. Just don't tell Jimmy Stewart you're going to say anything. Say a weird amount. So instead she says $17.50, and he's caught off guard enough, and that was just his natural reaction to try to like,
oh, that's nice,
keep it masked. He's just like, oh, you're fantastic. Here you go, $17.50. Who's got 50 cents?
I think my favorite thing about this scene, obviously everything about him trying to help these people is very good, but for me, I think what I like about it the most is the way that like Mary is just in on it. Is like she doesn't like put up a fight. She doesn't like even like look sad when he looks at that stack of cash. If anything, she's holding the cash up to say, hey, we can use this. Like she's willing to help him help these people, and without and you know, with a song in her heart, and like no malice, no regrets or anything. And the whole thing builds up to once everything is done and we get to the end of the day and we've saved the savings and loans, all these people are fine for now, we've done a good deed. She's arranged like a surprise for him that she's basically bought that shit house and she's turned it into like a vacation for the night. And it's still, it's not been fixed up yet. There's rain coming in all the windows. There's buckets everywhere. But she has some music. She has a duck roasting over the fireplace and they dance. Yep. Obviously the police officer they know kind of helped set this up. He's like brought him here. The cab driver's there. And they're kind of having a little bit of a commentary outside as they see the silhouettes dancing in the window. And it's all very sweet. And it's kind of this idea that she is not only willing to like sort of stand up to his ideals as well and like help him help people, but that she understands that, like, at the end of this day, this was supposed to be their getaway, their happy day. And she's trying to like make it work for him. She's trying to give him something at the end of the day that feels like, okay, we didn't get this thing, but we'll make the best of what we do have, which ultimately is what the movie ends up being about is, you can long for the things you don't have, but maybe you miss what you do have. And that's, it's like cherish what you actually have. And that's the whole point of the movie, right? So, but yeah, no, just her without even saying a word, just being like, yeah, let's use this money is I think just such a sweet moment.
I love the idea because, she's there to pull the money out of the purse in the bank, and then they do a time lapse. They just show the end of the banking day, and they manage to make it through without running out of money. They only have $2 left, but they managed to make it through. But I love at some point in the middle there, she apparently just disappeared to go off and do all this stuff to go get it all set up. And he didn't notice. He gets a call from her later on saying, hey, show up to this place, show up to our home, and then gives the address. But no, it's the idea that in the middle of all that, as everything else was going on, she got this idea of he's doing so much for other people. I want to do something for him. And it just is, it's exactly showing what their relationship is and why, why it wouldn't have worked with Violet, why it has to be Mary and him, why this is something that is, honestly, when we get to the end bit, when we get to the whole he wasn't alive thing, it ends, the last thing that he does and sees is Mary being alone. I think that this sequence justifies that. Because otherwise, I would say that it should have been like his brother dying. It should have been like something to do with his family, because that's where we spend so much of this time, is inner family stuff. But to say that she is the last one, this is the scene that justifies that being setting him over the edge there.
No, for sure, yeah. No, so I mean, this is obviously kind of the end of a big chapter as well. Was a little bit of preliminary stuff here just to show that he's still working with the savings and loans. He's helped this nice Italian man buy his house. So he does like a whole little speech for them as he's like handing them some bread and wine and saying, hey, blah, 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 here's to your new, a mansion. And it's just, just a nice little house. But we also see that Mr. Potter's getting pissed because all this land around like this part of town is now filled with all these nice little homes, and I don't know if he's accountant or whoever who's like explaining to him, hey, like, I may have to go work for this Mr. Bailey because he's doing such a good job and you've done jack shit, Mr. Potter. And he gets really pissed and he tries like a bit of a game plan here, Mr. Potter does, where he gets, I almost said Jimmy, but he gets George Bailey over to make him an offer. He's like, look, I've had my eye on that savings and loans for so long, and you've done a great job. You've been an adversary. You've like stood up against me all these years, and that takes a lot of fortitude. I have to recognize that. And he's been kind of nice. He's kind of be like, oh, what's he got up his sleeve here? He's being too nice. What's going on? And it turns out he offers him a job. He's like, hey, what do you must only make like $45 a week. How about $20,000 a year to come work for me and run my affairs? And Jimmy Stewart's in shock, but then he gets kind of happy. He realizes what that can do. Because, I mean, he even breaks down, like, oh, you're pulling in $45 a week. I mean, after you put up, money for your mother, you take care of the wife and, like, any expenses, you can save maybe, $10 a week? And if you have a kid at any point, like, all of a sudden, that 10 a week's gone as well. Like, you're going to have nothing to your name. I'm giving you a way out. And it's almost like he knows that he wanted to travel because he's like, hey, working for me at this level will mean going to New York twice a year for business trips, occasionally trips to Europe for business. Like he's like tantalizing him, like everything he wants, like money, trips, the whole shebang. And he's excited. Jimmy Stewart is excited. He gets excited, but he says, but what about the savings and loans? And Parr doesn't even say what he'll do with it. He just gets annoyed. He's like, oh, take the offer, you stupid man. Like, take this olive branch when it's offered to you. This is everything you've ever wanted. And it's almost like by not saying what he's going to do to the savings and loans says everything that needs to be said. It's like, no, I just want to kill it. I just want to get rid of it, and it's not going to exist anymore. That's what I'm going to do with it.
Well, I love when Potter's describing the job. He doesn't really say what he's going to be doing. He just says like, oh, you'll be my like personal guy on the ground, and like it's essentially just a get out of my way sort of job. It's the sort of thing that
it's like, almost a bribe. It's almost just a bribe to get out of his life. Yeah.
Pretty much. I wouldn't put it past Potter to be like, all right, you're on the payroll. We've signed the documents. I own that place, and you're fired. Get out of here.
No, he did say that it's a 3-year contract, so I think he at least has to keep him for 3 years. But I mean, after those 3 years, I mean, who knows? But
yeah, exactly. But no, I like the moment where it's just a tiny little human moment where he's still so caught up in it. It's not even the moment where he won't say what he's doing to the loan place. It's him saying, okay, well, I got to go talk to my wife. Like, I got to think about this. I got to go consider this. And then he takes a beat. And then he's like, no, wait a minute. What am I doing? I don't need to consider this. Like, screw you. You suck. I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, I like that moment a lot as well. Because Parr even says, yeah, go talk to the wife about it. I'll get the papers drawn up and it'll be all cushy. And he's almost about to leave. And he's like, no, what am I saying? I don't need to talk to anyone. No, the answer's no. Like, I'm not working for you, you little pissant. Also, a little detail here in this office is that the chair on the other side of the desk that Mr. Potter has is intentionally very low down. So Jimmy shows like a child, like, try to like reach up to the desk when he's sitting there. Obviously, it's an intentional character thing for Potter, obviously, but it's just a cool little bit of set design. It's a nice visual.
See, I would do the opposite. Like, if you want somebody to feel powerless, the best way to do that is have the seat be so high up that their legs can't reach the ground, so they're just kind of dangling there. That's how you do that.
But he goes home, and he's kind of a little bit No, he's not sad, but obviously he's feeling a little bit, mixed over what's happened this day. And he comes into the house and he's a little bit mopey. And Mary...
I also really like this bit because this is kind of in the gray area. This is kind of a thing where it's like, okay, he could easily make a better life for himself. He could go off and do those other things or whatever. But by turning down this money, not only is he hurting himself, not only is he giving up on those dreams, he's also still making life harder for his wife. And as we soon find out, like his soon-to-be growing family as well. So I like that this isn't a decision that he made that only hurts him. That's only something that's going to impact him. It's starting to show that idea that it is all connected. It's all part of a larger web of friendships and such.
Yeah, this is going to lead to more guilt because now he feels like he's like making life worse for other people. Yeah, I think there's that. I think there's also just this again a very human kind of moment of like part of him probably wishes he could have just eaten his pride and taken the job, regardless of like, hey, it might obviously it'll be bad for a lot of people that he's helped. It'll be bad for people that he might help in the future someday. But is this the time to be selfish and take the money? Is this time to just do what's best for him and not for others? And he didn't make that choice. And I think obviously it's the ethical choice that makes us like him as a character. But I don't think any of us can blame him for like sort of having a little bit of doubt and going, oh, maybe I should have just taken that. Did I just screw up by not taking the payday? And I think what I like about the wife revealing she's pregnant in this scene is that it's basically like made Potter a prophet because he literally just said, oh, if you have a kid come along, like that extra money you can save is going to just evaporate. And immediately that's becoming a real thing. And he's happy in the moment, don't get me wrong. Like he's like, oh, that's great news. They hug, the kiss, all the rest of it. And then we sort of like time span a little bit, and it's like, hey, he had a son and then a daughter and then 2 more kids. So he's got 2 sons and 2 daughters. He's got 4. I was like, 4 kids? That's a lot of kids.
There's a reason they were called the baby boomers.
So, like, and this is where we're getting kind of close to the final like stretch of the movie timeline wise.
Yeah, this part also, like, it's a long time gap, but they bridge it over by basically saying World War II happened. And they show every character. Yeah, characters you didn't even know were in the movie. They're like, and that's what this person was doing during World War II. They did their part. What about you, audience? Did you do your part?
It was still very relevant at the time when it came out. So, I mean,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of get it. But they make a big deal about his brother being like a war hero and going off and doing lots of great things as a pilot. So
I will say this is one of the few times where they're, everything else, they have full sets built. They're doing everything else. This is a point where they are using either rear screen projection or some early form of blue screen or whatever, where
I'm going to say rear screen projection would probably be my guess.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But it stands out. It's not as inclusive as I think they would like it to be. And I think a lot of that does come down to the wartime movies and whatnot are not quite up to snuff in terms of quality as the stuff that they're filming to go in front of it. And so you get this very much, this guy is on a backdrop, just like fiddling with his helmet or whatever.
Yeah. It kind of works in a weird way though, because it is presented as this montage of like, oh, this is them in this big event that would be obviously very expensive to show properly with like doing different scenes of all these locations and whatnot. So I kind of get it. It kind of works as a kind of, because it's only this montage, it works as like a stylized thing just for that, even though obviously, it's a limitations thing probably more than anything else.
I also do like that the story, just by virtue of being set up the way it was, it gives George a completely reasonable reason for not being out on the front lines because of his ear stuff. Like, he wouldn't have qualified. He does have a technical disability there. So it's not a thing where it's like, oh, he went out to the lines, he saw stuff and he came back different or whatever. Like, no, he's been a father to his children. He's been around this whole time. And maybe that is something that he also carries extra guilt over, but the movie doesn't quite explore that as deeply.
No, I mean, I think it's fair to say that he does feel a bit guilty that, his brother gets sent over to fight and he didn't have to go. Maybe there is a little bit of guilt there. But it also sounds like, his time at the Savings and Loans during World War II was very hectic. The one little glimpse you get of him is him kind of like dealing with a crowd and kind of yelling and whatnot. In fact, one of the things that I forgot to mention is when he calls Mr. Potter during when they were almost on their honeymoon and the crowd's there all asking for their money, Potter just casually says, "Oh, I'll send a police car over," and he's like, "Police? Why would you send a police car over?" And he's like, "Oh, you've got a mob over there. It's unruly." And it just again, it felt like just some rich asshole was like, "Yes, the poor filth are going to act up.
Yeah.
We need to get the police involved to put them down."
Look, I don't know if this makes all the top villains lists. I know your Hannibal Lecters and your Darth Vaders, but Mr. Potter deserves a seat up there. He's the worst.
He's also, he feels like he represents a lot of real people, including today. Right. If anything, even more so today.
There's so many people that I just want to like take a 1-to-1 and just say like, hey, like I want to tweet at so many different billionaires accounts with a picture of Mr. Potter and saying, hey, is this you? Like, just see if they get it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we get into the final, and no, I say final as if we're almost done. We're not, but like the final section of the movie is this last 40 minutes where it is Christmas Eve. You know, his kids are a little bit older. Like, you know, the oldest one's maybe like 9 or something, and then they're all whatever ages underneath that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've set this up. It's Christmas Eve. He looks a little bit older, a little bit more, you know, rugged. He's not maybe shaving quite as often as he should be, so he's got a little bit of a you know, some rough on his face.
Yeah, but it seems like things are going good in general.
Yeah, they're fine.
He's always,
yeah,
he's riding the wire. It's never like they're ever comfortable, but things are not bad.
Yeah. It's not like we start off this portion and things are already bad. There's a specific event that happens that sends them tumbling. And I mean, it obviously ties into this idea that they have been riding the wire, and that one bad incident, one mistake, or one, you know, unfortunate thing could just completely topple the entire house of cards. Like, that's kind of what it feels like. And in tradition of the movie, it's not even his mistake, which is the really sad part, is that he takes it on as his, and then he's the one that gets worried. He's the one who obviously is considering killing himself at a certain point. Not because he's so depressed. I mean, part of it, of course, they set up is that he's got a life insurance policy that is worth, like, he's worth more dead than alive. That is the words of Mr. Potter. You are worth more dead than you are alive. And he considers using that in obviously some way. But it's actually the uncle. The uncle's depositing money to the bank that's owed from the savings and loans, and he puts in an envelope, $8,000, which again, time period, very, very large amount of money. And he basically sees Mr. Potter come in on his way to his office, which is inside the bank, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go and shit on Mr. Potter for a bit. And he does. He's like, hey, look at this newspaper. This is George's brother. He got the Medal of Honor. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, old bastards. Look at this.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but he basically was just like, yeah, you know, not all of the bad guys were over in Germany and Japan. Wink, wink.
Yeah, he also says you can't keep those Bailey boys down, which is, again, just kind of rubbing it in. You couldn't turn George. You tried repeatedly and you couldn't do it.
And the one recurring character trait that we've gotten about his character constantly through this movie is he is very forgetful. He is very bad at keeping track of things.
So he's holding this newspaper that he's taken off Mr. Potter, and he's holding his envelope of money. And when he folds the newspaper, he accidentally leaves the envelope of money in there, and thus losing it, and then therefore the savings and loans can't pay the money they owe to the bank, and of course setting us all in this chain of events. My favourite thing about all this, though, is that the entire time, Mr. Potter is responsible for this happening. Because any decent human being, once he realizes what's just happened, because he goes to his office, he opens up the newspaper, and he's like, what's this wad of cash? What's happening? And he like wheels over to the door, and he looks out, and he sees Uncle Billy looking very upset and searching frantically for this envelope of money. At any point, he could just be like, hey, Billy, you idiot, here's your envelope. He can even be a dick about it, but he doesn't. He chooses to not. He wants to let him worry. And then, of course, as the rest of the movie plays out, at a certain point, he's like, I'm going to get you arrested, George, for, you know, I bet you've got gambling trouble. Maybe you're spending it on another woman. Maybe you've got an affair. And I'm like, the entire time, you're not even just making assumptions because you're a prick. You know none of this is true. You've got the envelope of money. You've pocketed it, you son of a bitch, and you're letting this all play out. And maybe arguably one of the things that you could maybe ask for in this movie that doesn't happen is just a little bit of comeuppance. And I get that that's not in the spirit of the movie, but part of me wants a little bit of comeuppance. Like, and I'm not saying I want him to get hurt. I'm just saying maybe someone like catches that he's done this, and like, you know, like, his reputation is affected accordingly, you know, like people know he's a scumbag or something, whatever. But like,
it's weird because, like, yes, there's two aspects to this that I think are not covered that in any other movie I think they would have been covered, and that is Mr. Potter getting his comeuppance or anything, any sort of thing besides him like technically being fine at the end of the movie. And also I don't want to call it redemption, but just like a apology, a moment of goodness for Uncle Billy, because like he is distraught over losing this money. He knows, and like the entire time that they're retracing their steps, like George is walking through doing whatever, but when they reach the end of the line, there's nowhere else they can look. He pulls him up by the collar and just calls him like a stupid old man who like is going to go to jail, and he's saying like, I'm not doing it for you. You got to get, like, someone's going to jail for this. It's not going to be me. And he storms out. He like throws a bunch of stuff in his office, and we leave Uncle Billy sobbing in his office. We get one bit at the end once, you know, the miracle of Christmas happens, and Uncle Billy is technically leading the charge there, but they explicitly point out that Mary is the one who's done it. Mary is the one who's brought this all together. So I feel like there should have been something where Billy redeemed himself a little bit, but that just doesn't come up either. Yeah.
And they know for a fact that Billy lost it, because like another character confirms that Billy had the envelope of money the night before. Like he was counting the money last night. He's the one that had. It's not like, oh, he never took it and it was you that lost it, or it's been misplaced some other way. It's very clear, and Billy obviously doesn't deny it because Billy remembers having the money. He never lies about having the money. So it's very clear his mistake, and it's very clear that it's on him. But George takes it all on, and he's the one who ends up, you know, worrying about it, going to look for it. And his day from this point on is a series of misery through. Yeah. And, you know, he does take it out when he gets home on his family. You know, he's very snippy with the kids. He's snippy with Mary. And it sort of builds and builds where he gets a little bit more agitated, and he's not entertaining the kids' dumb questions, or he's like, oh, stop playing that stupid piano, Janie.
There's a bit where one of his daughters catches a cold coming home from school, and then the teacher calls to check on the kid, make sure everything's fine. But then he gets a hold of the phone, just being like, what's the big idea? Sending home our kids without proper clothes, they get to catch a cold or whatever. You're stupid. Well, you're a stupid teacher, and you shouldn't be teaching kids. And then the husband gets on the phone, and he's like, yeah, you want to do something about it? Anytime. Find me, George Bailey. Look me up.
Mary's not looking too thrilled at this, obviously, and is kind of concerned. Nah. And it's actually not until he kind of starts like losing his shit and like kicking over stuff in the corner of the room where they all look kind of scared, and he turns around and realizes how much he's terrifying them, and he sort of like backtracks and says, oh, I owe you an apology, and he apologizes to each of them kind of in turn. But he's still not feeling better. He's still not happy at the end of the scene. He still ends up just kind of ditching out, basically.
Well, I feel like he realizes what trouble he's caused here for his family, and he apologizes, but it's not enough, because now his kids are like scared to ask him those questions. She's scared to play the piano, all that stuff, and he's like trying to force them, like, it's Christmas Eve, come on, get happy, go ahead, play, and he's like, I don't wanna. And that's what caused him to like kind of storm out and be like, I've ruined everything, it's all gone wrong.
And one of the recurring things in this scene as well is this idea of him feeling self-conscious about anything that implies that he's like poor. Like the son at one point says, hey, did you see the neighbors in your car? And he just turns and says, what's wrong with our car? Is it not good enough for you? Or, you know, when he's talking to the teacher on the phone, he's like, oh, you send my kid hoping with all, you know, like fully dressed, like, oh, maybe our clothes just aren't good enough. You know, he sort of puts in these little comments that show that it's getting to him, that he's not got like the wealth that maybe he is deserving of, and you know, like, so all of that plays also, out. Yeah,
I think it also comes down to, again, there's this idea that he does have a very, very in the back of his mind a bit of resentment of I could have been out of all this. I shouldn't have been here to begin with. I could have been in a completely different life if I just didn't stick around, if I wasn't tied down by this bank, by my family, by my wife. Like, I could have been somewhere else. And I think he has that resentment, but he also hates that he has that resentment. He hates that he thinks that way sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's that idea of like, again, not being appreciative of what you actually have and thinking about what you could have had or want instead, right? And he actually goes to Potter and basically says, hey, I don't know how this money got misplaced, but you're the only one in town who can afford to like help me, and like, you know, I can pay it back and we can sort something out. And Potter effectively just laughs at his face and says, I'm going to phone the police, you're going to jail. And again, the entire time he knows exactly where that money is. He has it in his possession. So he is just especially evil here. Like, it's earlier on, we got that example of him taking advantage of the situation that he might have helped create with the bank to try and, like, you know, come in and maliciously take over the savings and loans. But this is like, he didn't intentionally like plan this, but this fell in his lap, and he is just, that's it. This is how I destroy George Bailey. This is how I take him out of my town. Even though by this point, Mr. Potter must be like on his deathbed and like not around much longer, given that he's been in this position for 40 years at this point. But hey,
it's literally the last thing on his bucket list. He's like, get rid of the Baileys. Scratch. Nice.
So yeah, and this is obviously where he says, yeah, I mean, do you have any collateral for this potential loan? And he's like, I mean, I've got life insurance, and this is what brings up the whole, you know, like 15 grand if you die kind of thing. So
yeah, his policy is worth like 15 grand, but the amount of that he has like sunk into it in liquid asset is only $500, I think.
Yeah.
And that's where he's like, 500 of what you're able to give me out of 8,000, get out of my office. I'll call the cops. You're a creep.
Yeah. So he goes stumbling around. He ends up in a bar. You know, and he's with friends. You know, it's the Italian guy who helped get a house earlier on, who owns the place. Other people there that he knows. But the teacher. Well,
before he goes to the bar. No, wait, you're right. He does. He goes to the bar
first,
and then he does that. Yeah, sorry. And then he goes back to the bar again.
Yeah, but bar, then crash, then angel, then back to bar.
Right.
Yes.
Sorry.
So the wife's husband, or sorry, the teacher's husband is there though, because they say George Bailey's like, wait, George Bailey, and he just punches him, and the rest of them like, oh no, kick him out, he's not allowed in here anymore. And I'm like, yeah, he did kind of ask for that punch. I mean, you guys didn't hear it obviously, but he did kind of ask for that punch a little bit earlier.
It also follows such a great sequence, a very tight close-up shot of George at the bar just praying to God, and he's like, I don't pray much, but please, I need a miracle, I need something here.
Yeah.
And then like 30 seconds later he's punched in the face, and he's like, well, that's what I get for praying. Jesus.
Yep, and you know, and then he obviously stumbles out to the car, and the car's been acting up. You know, the door doesn't open properly. He's kicking it and whatnot, and he ends up crashing it into this tree. And this guy comes out and says, "That's my grandfather's tree. You've ruined my grandfather's tree, you monster."
He was going at like 5 miles an hour in a Ford Model T. Nah.
But obviously, this is where the It's a Wonderful Life plot kicks in, because he goes to the bridge. He's looking down. He's thinking about it. And Clarence the Angel decides to go in himself, thinking that George's instincts to like be good, to help someone, will kick in and he'll jump in to save him, which he does. He saves Clarence, and you know they're getting dry. You know, this guy who works by the bridge like gives him a place to come in and like get warmed up. And so I guess some of the comedy of this movie, there's been some comedic bits of obviously before, but I think this guy's reactions to Clarence just saying that he's an angel and that he's like, you know, from heaven, and he's got his wings yet. There's a lot of cutaways to this guy in the background just kind of like making faces like, what did this madman just say? Okay.
He's got some chewing tobacco. He's got some lip, and every time he goes to spit, that's when Clarence says something completely outlandish, and he always like stops mid spit. He's like, "What? What'd you say?"
Yeah, because George, obviously not taking him seriously, is like, "Hey, but you're not that good of an angel then, are you? I mean, where's your wings?" And he's like, I don't have my wings yet. That's what makes me a Class B angel.
I love the phrasing of Class B angel. Like, it implies that it's not even so much of like, you know, you got seraphim or Nephilim or whatever else, different like branches of angels. Nah, it's a bureaucracy up there. You got Class A and Class B. Like, you need to get your license to get onto a Class A angel.
Yep. I mean, that's how it sounds. So he's like, you know, maybe I'll get them if I help you. And George obviously still doesn't believe him. They go back to the bar. But obviously, much like a time travel movie where things have changed, the bar's name is changed.
Yeah. I was going to say, right while they're in this place, the guy has left them alone. And he does say the words like, I wish I was never born.
That's right.
And
yeah, it
then
says that, yeah.
they do one or two things here to say, okay, well, you shouldn't wish that, but you know, you wished it. They had some blood on his lip before for when he was punched. That disappears because he was never in the fight. And then his ear, that this entire movie he wasn't able to hear through, all of a sudden he's able to hear through it again. And he just chalks it up to, oh, that cold water must have sparked something back into it.
Yeah, the rose petals that his daughter gave him in his pocket, they're gone as well. So just these other little signs. So he's not really convinced yet, but he's like noticing this stuff. And when they go to the bar, like, you know, someone who was his friend before now owns the bar, but he's much more mean. He's not as friendly. He doesn't take him seriously, gets in mad at him. The old man who owned the drugstore comes in, and he's now this homeless guy that everyone kind of makes fun of and kind of tries to shoo him away, and they're mean to him. And one of the things that Clarence then comes in and says, hey, you weren't here to stop him from doing that thing with the pills that day.
Yeah.
So
like
his
whole
life
town
was
is
ruined.
saying that, yeah, the whole town's like, nah, you're not welcome here, you're whatever. And when George is like, wait a minute, that's the druggist. He's the good guy here. And it's like, what do you mean he hasn't been doing anything with drugs since he poisoned that kid 20 years ago. It's like, oh, okay. All right, we're getting how this works. Also,
druggist is a weird word, like pharmacist or chemist or whatever. I don't know.
Works for the time.
So yeah, like, so this scene happens where we have these initial things, and he's kind of weirded out, of course, and like there's a certain point not too long after this where Clarence sticks around for a while, don't get me wrong, because they do a whole thing where they're in the street, because he does the whole, he said, walk through the town thing, where he's seeing that it does, like, you know, a girls' dancing club, and like something's there instead of the savings and loans, and he's noticing all this stuff. And also the town's name has changed to Potterville from what it normally is. So he's like, wait, this is bad. This is like, what's going on here? I'm in Bizarro World. So all of this stuff kind of builds up to effectively a police chase, right? He gets into trouble with someone who was his friend, because he gets in the cab, sees the cab driver who's his friend, but the cab driver doesn't know him. And the cab driver's weirded out enough that he kind of signals the cop over to be like, hey, this guy's maybe like a junkie or something. He's like saying weird things.
He does it so subtly as well, where he leans half his body out the window, bangs on the side 5 times, and then like gestures to George in the back. I'm like, yeah, George didn't notice that at all. You're fine.
Yeah. And I actually laughed out loud here in a moment that was definitely not intended to be funny, because when George like pushes away and runs off, the cop just pulls out his gun and starts firing, and all I could hear in my head was, so anyway, I started blasting, because that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. He just says, oh, well, he's running away. I'll just pull out my gun and I'll just shoot him in the back.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, it definitely makes it feel like a darker world. I actually want to give a little bit of credit to the, I guess, set dressing, set design. I noticed on this go around that as George is running down the street, there's a giant, incandescent bulb sign that spells out Pottersville. And as he's running away and one of the shots is fired, one of the T's goes out. Which obviously they aren't firing actual bullets or anything, but the idea that like a stray bullet hit the T and like caused it to go out. I think that just a tiny little touch that made it feel more real. Yeah.
He also sees Violet in this part being arrested, maybe for being a prostitute. Tough to tell.
Something of the sort, for sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of what gets him into the bother in the first place. But he ends up like, going to what's supposed to be his house, but they never moved in. They never fixed it up. So it's this rundown place. And obviously gets chased here by the cop, who ends up like sort of pinning him down, and he's going to handcuff him. And ultimately he's like, Clarence, get me out of here, like whatever.
I think he manages to escape on foot, but Clarence showed back up earlier, and then Clarence is the one who gets tackled down. So Clarence is calling up to the other angels of like,
that's right,
Joseph, get me out of here. And then all of a sudden he just wipe cuts out of there, and then the cop is just like, what just happened? And the taxi driver's like, I'm gonna go get a drink. I don't know what happened. By the way, name of the taxi driver and the cop are Bert and Ernie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Strange little coincidence.
So, yeah, I mean, like, all of this is like just showing how much darker this world is. Everyone he thought of as a friend is being mean to him. And I say being mean, some of them are trying to shoot him. So it's a very harsher world. It's a colder world. The town feels a lot more sleazy, and it's all just profit and like all capitalism and whatever else.
Hope is gone. Inspiration and hope has been gone. Yeah.
So the final two things that he gets to see really before it's time to, like, you know, basically want his old life back is one is like, where's my brother? Well, you weren't around to save him when he fell in the ice, so he's been dead since he was like 8. And they go to the tombstone, and that's obviously a big moment for him, and he breaks down a little bit.
Yeah, and they go through like the ripple effect. They say, yeah, he died as a kid. Therefore, that thing that he's getting the Medal of Honor for, like saving all those soldiers in the war, they also all died because he wasn't there for that. So like, it's this whole ripple effect of, because you didn't save him, he wasn't able to save all these other people. So you're still kind of responsible for saving all those other people.
Yeah, yeah. All the houses that he helped like build to get people places to live, they're all gone. They're not there. There's a cemetery here instead.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, where's my wife? Where's Mary? And Clarence is like, I can't tell you that, because everything else he's found on his own. He's went to places that he knows, or he's tried looking for places. He even went to his own house at one point, like his mum's house, and his mum's like got like a boarding home, and she just does not recognize him, and that freaks him out as well, of course. But he's like, where's Mary? And he grabs Clarence and demands to know where she is. And Clarence gives it up. He's like, oh, she's closing the library about now. So he runs to the library. And he sees her, and she's so different. She's very timid. She's clearly kind of scared. She's on her own, and she doesn't recognize him. And this kind of like, you know, so even her life is worse without him in it. Yeah.
I do really like that choice, though, from a relationship standpoint, is that it solidifies that he was the only one for her. That was the only relationship, because she never married anyone else. She never loved anyone else. It was always only going to be him. And even when he didn't exist, still somehow she never found anyone that fit her measurements as well as he did.
Yeah, because she went off to college and came back and was still wanting him. So, she was gone for 4 years, probably surrounded by people, and was never, I don't know if she was never tempted, but she certainly never settled down with anyone or made any long-term plans.
She was always waiting for someone like George, but never found anyone like him.
So, yeah, this is obviously, like you said earlier, the final nail in the coffin of, like, him wanting now, like, please give me my old life back, please. Because obviously, Clarence's reaction at the start was like, "Oh, why were you going to do this over a measly $8,000?" And he's like, "Wait, why do you know that?" That's like one of the things that makes him go, "Wait, what? How are you knowing these things? You've got a lot of information there somehow."
Do you work for Mr. Potter?
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously, the end of the movie is him getting to come back, and like, there's a whole moment here where, in this alternate timeline, like the cop is like coming to get him. And he's chased him to the bridge and is going to like maybe shoot him again. But then when he's back in the regular timeline, the cop is still here, but obviously here is his friend, and he's like, "Hey, I've been looking everywhere for you. Like, you want me to take you back to the house?"
And he doesn't know that he's in the new timeline yet, so he's just like, "Back up! I'll punch you again, man. I'll knock your lights out."
And luckily, he doesn't start blasting, because he might have. He was very quick to do it in the other timeline, but. He doesn't want to left. He wants to run through the town, yelling "Merry Christmas." This is what everyone always replays when they're doing the "That's a Wonderful Life," a great Christmas movie. Look at Jimmy Stewart running through the snowy town, yelling "Merry Christmas" at everyone he goes past. He even goes up to Mr. Potter's window and bangs on it and says, "Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter."
Mr. Potter says, "I'll see you in jail. Get out of here."
So he goes home, and I think one of the things that I like about this chunk of the movie is that he's not even like got a solution yet for the money. That comes in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But he's just happy to be back here regardless of whatever. Like, I think he even says one point happily, "I'm going to jail, everyone. Merry Christmas." Like,
he walks back into his house, and you have the bank examiner, some reporters that Mr. Potter helpfully sent over.
Yes.
And then a guy who's got a warrant for his arrest. And they all try to introduce themselves, but he cuts them off just like, "I bet that's a warrant for my arrest. You hold on just 1 minute." And then he just calls out for his family.
Yeah, he runs up, he gets to the kids, he gives them a big hug. Mary comes home, big hugs all around. And most of the front covers, most of the DVD covers, posters, whatever you see now, are of one of these shots of them all hugging. That tends to be what's used these days. So Mary eventually gets to explain that, you know, people knew he was in trouble. And, you know, obviously the reveal visually is that the uncle comes in with this big basket of money. They've done a whip round and they've collected money to make sure that, like, he gets out of this jam. This idea that he's been there helping them with their lives and their problems all these years, that in this night when he's the one in need, where something bad has happened, and the one person who could fix it in an instant doesn't because he's a prick. Everyone else... Because there's even a line, actually, when he goes to Potter for help, where Potter says, oh, so you've come to me, you can't go to all those poor, like, filthy people for help because they can't afford to help you. But then that's actually what happens. All those poor people all chip in and do help him. So
because it's not even a thing where he didn't think that they could help. It was a thing where he didn't want to like, he still views himself as such a martyr. He doesn't want to have to put them through the act of helping.
I think you could debate it. I mean, you could take it as a little column A, a little column B, maybe even a little bit of just him just not, like, it's not even so much like he's got a martyr complex, just more just this idea that if he wouldn't even consider the idea they would, as opposed to whether or not they could. Or they should, or...
He tried asking one person. Unfortunately, it was the $242 guy who was like, nope, sorry, this is my money.
Yeah. But honestly, when I was talking earlier on about Potter getting some comeuppance, even him just being present here and seeing all this and being proven wrong might have been enough. Like, because he doesn't get to see any of this. That might have been nice, because he threw this in his face. All those poor people that you picked over me, they can't help you. But they do. You know?
I think obviously Potter shouldn't show up here. There's no reason for him to show up here. I think the only thing that theoretically could have made it work was you have either the reporter or the warrants guy. You see them on the phone saying, like, connect me to Mr. Potter. And then we just get a shot of Mr. Potter angrily frustrated in his office or something.
I disagree. I actually think you can get him here. It's very easy. I don't think it's out of character or out of the question that he just wants to see George get arrested, so he's just outside because he's sent these reporters, he's sent these people to come and help with all this. I don't think that would be out of the question. And then, like, he sees all the people rushing into the house, he's like, what's going on? What's happening? And getting more and more frustrated that his master plans.
Tear him apart. He lost your money.
But no, they all come in, they're giving money. The old housekeeper that worked for his family gives them money. And eventually, even the bank guy and the guy with the warrant, like, he rips up the warrant in front of him and then puts in a couple of dollars. He's like, here's a couple.
Yeah, I think Ernie, the cab driver, he gets on the phone and says, hey, everyone, we just got a call from the dude who tried to give him a job during the scene where he was first making out with Mary. That guy made it rich during the war. He got his company to send $25,000 by wire. So, like, everything's good, everything's set, and then some.
Yeah, and people still keep chipping in money. I'm like, he just got 25 grand. Like, he's more than covered.
I really, speaking of that $242 guy, I wanted him to show up and be like, I put in a 20. If he's good, can we just, no? Okay, all right.
But people just keep putting in money, and it's a whole, Auld Lang Syne plays, and the brother comes back. Yeah, he comes back from the war, and he's got his pilot's hat on, and all the rest of it. So it's, everyone's happy, everyone's hugging, music's playing, good vibes to end the film on. It's like, hey, everyone showed up to help him after he spent his life helping them and giving up, sacrificing what he wants to help them, and they've shown up for him. So there's a really good vibe to it. It goes back to that quote that the dad had in the wall in his office about the only thing you can take with you is what you gave away to others. And that's kind of what this ending kind of wraps back around to. So, and
then the very last thing is the daughter hears a bell ring on the tree.
That's right. Yeah,
it's like every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. So Clarence got his wings up in heaven, space, wherever angels live.
North Dakota.
Damn, we're bringing that back. Damn Bismarckians.
I mean, I think because it's the last half hour that everyone thinks of when they think of the It's a Wonderful Life plot. It's this idea of seeing the world if you didn't exist in it, to make you appreciate what you've offered the world, right? And like we said, so many TV shows, so many, even other movies. A weird thing I remember is that this is the plot of Richie Rich 2. Don't ask me why I remember that. I remember nothing else about that movie, but the direct-to-TV Richie Rich sequel was him being It's a Wonderful Life and seeing what the world would be like without him.
Fair enough.
So, yes.
I mean, I've just remembered, like you said, there's a bunch of like young kids cartoons like Nicktoons and stuff like that every once in a while they dip into this plot. And I can think of several that like did it, but I couldn't tell you specifically what they did to make it special on their own. But it's the sort of thing where it's a simple enough idea of you just say, what if I was never born? You get to use all of the previous characters that you have had for however many seasons to show how bad, or in some comedic cases good, things would be, because that's always the twist on is like, no, actually it turns out you make people's lives worse, so get out of here.
Yeah, and of course there was an episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer that did somewhat their own take on this premise, although in that one notably it wasn't the character who was taken away from the equation that wished it was actually someone else who wanted them to be gone. And then like it pulled some different tricks actually, because the character who made the wish actually ends up dying in the alternate timeline halfway through the story. And then it's just kind of this idea of like the characters who are left just have to believe there was a better world and try and fix it, because it's not like something that will just snap back to normal. They have to kind of do the magic-y thing in the show to make it happen. But
I feel like that's also a thing that happens more in adaptations, is it's not something that does just snap back. It's something where it's like, how do we fix this? How do we turn things back to normal?
Yeah, which if anything makes it feel more like a time travel type story in a lot of ways. But no, I mean, this is a classic for a reason, and it does have a lot of feel-good vibes. Jimmy Stewart is very likable, but he's not just one note either. Like, you know, like we said, this is both and the performance and the writing, where he gets to be flawed, he gets to be angry in some scenes and be frustrated that he's not getting what he wants, which just further sells this idea. And I loved it, because I think at the start of the movie, especially in the first half of it, when it's almost a repeated thing of like, in this next stage of the life, he almost gets what he wants, but fate steps in and he does not. It wouldn't be out of the question for someone watching this for the first time, if they know the gist of what the premise of the movie is going to end up being, if they just assume that he gets depressed enough that he tries to end his life. But it's not the case. He doesn't just get there because he's unhappy. Like, there's this other thing that happens that puts him into a hard place, where that's the inciting incident of what he's ultimately going to do. And why the angel needs to step in. I think that's a little bit, you know, like, it's not like they're saying, oh, his life is so sucky in general and he's miserable about it all the time. It takes basically like the most severe circumstance of him being terrified that he can't get out of a situation for him to be pushed to that point.
I also think that it's very, very clearly done that it's an extension of his martyrdom. It's an extension of the idea that he's not trying to kill himself out of the idea that he just can't find a way out, and he wants, you know, he doesn't want to have to deal with it. He just wants to leave all that behind. It's not from that point of view. It's from the life insurance angle. It's from the idea that if I were to die, all the problems would be solved. All of these things would immediately be fixed up. And that's the sort of thing where it's that taking the natural extension of he's willing to sacrifice himself, his happiness, all those things in so many ways for other people. This is just the end goal. This is the final step of that.
Yeah. So, no. Feel good Christmas movie.
As we just say, like, here's why he would kill himself, but it feels good.
No, I mean, the movie ends on obviously a very upbeat note, and you know, he's finally like really and utterly rewarded for the good person that he is, and he never did it for a good reward, but like, you know, he does deserve it at the end, and that's
I fully expect, you know, he's going to take whatever money he needs to get back good with the bank, and then he's immediately going to turn all of that extra money into extra houses, like paying back people as they gave to him over the years. Like, there's no way that he's ever going to just be like, yep, I deserve this, pocket.
Maybe it's finally time to take a vacation, this time with the whole family.
There you go. He finally gets out to Europe, which I'm sure is doing just great right after World War II.
I don't know if traveling to Europe right after World War II is the best time. That's actually an interesting question, is how long after the 1945 did tourism to, say, Paris or France in general, how long was it before that became like a normal thing people were doing again? I have to imagine it was at least a few years of them rebuilding the country, and
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine they were probably trying to push it as early as humanly possible. The question is, when did it catch on?
Yeah. All right, David, what are you rating It's a Wonderful Life out of 10?
Oh boy. I do really enjoy this movie. Again, it is kind of just limited to Christmas time. I wouldn't say this is something that I would just put on in general, but anytime I do put it on, I never feel bad about putting it on. And for being like 2 hours plus long, it also just goes by so quick. It's not something where I'm sitting there in the middle of his life and I'm like, God, can we just get to the part where he kills himself already? Jesus. Like it feels good to go through as well. So it's got good pacing. I think overall, I can't quite get this one up to the 9, but I am going to give it a very strong 8.5. It's very much up on that for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with the 8.5. I think it's where I sit with it as well. I think if I had grown up with the movie, it may be a slightly different kind of attitude towards it. But as it is, like, it's still a very, very strong film that kind of resonates and lands. And, you know, there's not a lot of comedy in it, but when it does try to be funny, it tends to be fairly funny. So it nails kind of those elements to it as well. And of course, you've got this idea of this character who is like helped out by the end by the kindness of everyone else, which does really feel Christmassy and feels like good spirits and all the rest of it. So it is a nice story to take in the Christmas season. So I actually, you know, when we were doing the ratings rundown over in Patreon, I thought of a point I wanted to make, but I've forgotten it now, and I'm really annoyed that I've not remembered it by the time we got to the ratings.
Was it the banister? We mentioned the banister.
No, it wasn't the banister. It was something that I liked how it paid off later on that I didn't bring up earlier, and it's left my brain now. I have to accept it's gone. It's not happening. I'm sure it was a great point.
Just another good thing that happened in the movie.
Yes, another good thing that happened in the movie.
So, does this make the cut?
Yeah, it makes the cut. I think it makes the cut.
Does it go a cut above?
I don't think for me I would put it into a cut above.
Again, I'm right on that border. I could easily, like, if we were like, you know, on Christmas Eve and I watched this movie and we're talking about it, I think I would absolutely say, like, yes, this is everything I needed from the world. But yeah, I would agree. I think in general, it just makes the cut.
Yeah. Look, it's great, but it's no Jingle All the Way. More on that in a couple of weeks. That's not next, though. Next up, we had a vote of 3 80s movies for a Christmas episode. And the winner was A Christmas Story, which, interestingly, is another one that I didn't see as a kid, because A Christmas Story, for whatever reason, was never really a thing in the UK. It's like something I always hear Americans talk about for Christmas movies, but I actually had to seek it out as an adult to see, I should go watch that, because I always hear Americans talk about it. For whatever reason, it was never a big thing in the UK growing up.
For me, and I might get some hate for this, it was not really a huge part of my childhood, in the fact that, like, you know, I was always encouraged to sit down, watch it, whatever, but it was always on. It was always around. And I think it was on and around to the point that I kind of got sick of it for a while. So I haven't seen it in many years. I'm curious to go back to it and see whether or not that's changed. But there was a while there where I was like, is there anything else on during Christmas time at all, for the love of God?
Yeah, well, we'll find out next time on The Collector's Cut. Of course, you can support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership. Get access to the Ratings Rundown segment, where we do a bunch of extra categories, rate visuals, sound, script, acting, all that kind of thing. Plus, we do a monthly bonus show on Patreon, me and David, called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst things ever made. And there is a Christmas bad movie this month
Just
for December.
I'm pretty sure that's how Lacey Chabert makes her entire career.
Hey, one day we might do Lacey Chabert season, but today's not that day. Nope. I kid, that'll never happen, all right? That'll never happen. They'll be sprinkled throughout extra reels at best, but that's it. So no, we've got a Christmas movie planned for Extra Reels for December, of course. But if that sounds like fun, but mainly you get to support the show and help make sure Collector's Cut and the Atomic Cinema Experiment and Screams After Midnight all keep coming. Those are the 3 main movie shows that we do. So check out the others if you haven't. But that is us. Thank you very much for joining us. That has been the Collector's Cut. So hopefully you're having a nice Christmas season. And it's okay if you're not religious. I mean, I'm atheist and I like Christmas. It's lights and presents and food.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters, really. Like, yeah.
I was going to say, looking at it, we picked 4 very, very secular movies for the vote. None of them are really very religious.
I mean, this one has angels in it. That's kind of religious.
Yeah. I mean, angels that also act like business class associates or something like that. True. And to be fair, we didn't pick. The patrons picked them. Yeah,
they voted on each one, right?
They don't want no religion in their podcast.
Anyway, that's the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity, like Santa.